Walt Disney Feature Animation is taking a victory lap on their Disney 100 short Once Upon a Studio, but a lot of people are noticing that things are not quite right in the House of Mouse. Let's talk about that on That Park Place. We waited with bated breath to watch the Once Upon a Studio short that featured something like 534 Disney characters, 80% of them being hand-drawn animation, otherwise known as cel-shaded animation. And as we went through the video, we couldn't help but notice that things were not quite what they should be. We have covered that a little bit in a previous video, but we got to bring the panel back together to talk about some of the coverage around it and the fact that people thought it might have been done by AI. No, it definitely wasn't done by AI, and a few fluff pieces were patting Disney on the back when we think that might not have been the appropriate thing to do. So let's get started into this deeper dive into what wasn't quite right in this Disney 100 celebration short. How Disney brought back Robin Williams' Genie for the animated short Once Upon a Studio without using AI. Well, I gotta say, this might have actually been a little bit better if they used a little bit of AI.
Ooh. Could have been.
It says by Jazz Tenkei, it took a village of creatives at Disney Animation to pull off Once Upon a Studio, the animated short that celebrates 100 years of stories and magic. Iconic characters like Snow White and Peter Pan feature alongside Robin Williams' Genie in a cast of 543 characters from more than 85 feature-length and short films, and it all came together without any artificial intelligence involved. Who here has actually seen this short? I'm raising my hand. I've seen it.
Listen, I did it for science.
Is it on Disney Plus or something, or what do we
see?
It released yesterday on ABC, and then Disney Plus today.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be on YouTube sometime soon.
I've got some analysis of this. I'll share in a little bit, but I think there's a Freudian slip of magnitude inside this thing.
Well, I suppose we should just start out by describing what this is.
Thank God it's not Jungian. I mean, that would be terrible.
You keep Carl out of this.
I mean, if we're talking about Freud and Jung, Freud says everything was about your mother, and Jung says, I think that you're projecting. That was pretty much the two philosophies all at once.
Carl! You're not supposed to kill people, Carl. Oh, wait, wrong Carl.
Yeah. Speaking of Carl, there's at least one Carl in this, even though it's not the good Carl from Up, because apparently Pixar characters are not allowed. So the basic story here is that it takes place at the Roy E. Disney Animation Studios. That's the Roy that resigned from the board in the last Save Disney campaign, not to be confused with Peltz's Save the Restoring Magic campaign. So everybody leaves and they say, oh, if these walls could talk. Now the animator that says that line passed away before the short came out. May he rest in peace. And there's also a young black woman there with him so that they can share in this moment together. A little symbolic passing on of the torch, a little bit of weighted imagery there from the Walt Disney Company.
It is the perfect passing of the torch. Let's say that.
Yeah. So everything shuts down and it pans over to a picture of Mickey and Minnie in an old short, and they jump out, and it is not the current voice of Mickey Mouse. Well, I guess he might be the current.
I'm kind of thinking that the guy who actually sounds like Mickey has been fired or something. Why is he not the one doing it? Why is Brett not here?
Yeah. So
two Mickeys, yeah.
Yeah, so for those who don't understand what we're saying, Brett Iwan is the official guy who took over the role from Wayne Allwine.
Yeah, also known as the guy who actually sounds like Mickey.
Yes, in your own heads, if you're listening to the voice of Mickey Mouse, unless you're thinking of the really old Walt Disney version, it's pretty much Wayne Allwine. The voice that you have all had in your head for that long is Wayne Allwine.
Right.
And when he passed away, he was married to Russi Taylor, who was the voice of Minnie Mouse. So that's adorable.
Recently passed away.
Yeah, she also passed away. So she's also replaced in this. It's not the guy that they chose, Brett Iwan, who was a greeting card artist and
who nailed the voice perfectly. I mean, amazing, just amazing.
And you can see him on Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. Instead, it's Christian Diamantopoulos, who is very talented, and he's been in things that you've seen. If you watched Silicon Valley or The Office, the boom mic guy that flirts with Pam, that's Christian Diamantopoulos, or Chris Diamantopoulos. He does the voice of Mickey in this short. And
he sounds like he's trying to do the Walt thing, but not well.
And he was brought on as part of the Mickey shorts, right? These kind of new series of shorts that
Ren and
take
Stimpy.
a very different. They take Mickey in a different direction. Apparently, it was back to his kind of scrappy roots, but yeah, very Ren and Stimpy.
Yes, and those have just ended. They, those things are kind of controversial as far as the Walt Disney Company goes. I will say that as the company has declined, they've kind of been the best animated thing out of the company for the last
Right.
few years. But those are gone now.
The company kind of knows that, which is why they theme not one but two theme park attractions based solely on those shorts, and then they just cancel them. It's very bizarre.
Right. So, and they basically go around. Mickey Mouse calls on Tinkerbell to go summon everybody through, and they go through and they awaken all of the portraits in here, and you see a bunch of cameos from all the different characters. Again, 543 different characters roaming through the halls. Now, they've said that 80% of them are 2D animated. Pro, in watching this, what percentage of the spoken word and action would you say is actually 2D animated characters?
I don't know. If you consider all the very short scene characters that are in the background, like, for example, who's the dog from Oliver and Company? What's his name? Dodger. Dodger shows up for 2 seconds. Okay, so like if you're counting that, I'm sure you can get to 80-20. Here's the real deal. The real deal that we all need to be talking about, I think, is that with all of these characters, there's one thing that becomes very apparent very quickly, and that is that when they could steal the cells from the olden days and use those, so one-to-one, take the cells from some movie that these characters appeared in and just throw it on here and try to recontextualize it, looks great. Every time they're in a situation where, for example, Pocahontas or Snow White has never been in this situation, and so they're going to have to draw it for the first time.
Right.
There is a distinct understanding that Disney can no longer do this. That they do not have the ability. Good Lord, get that off the screen. Jonas, remove that. The abomination.
That's tough, man.
They can't draw. They don't have. I mean, this 2D is dead at Disney. I don't know if they farm this out to some company in I don't know where, but these are bad, and these are not the worst of them, but they look like abominations. It definitely detracts, and it really does.
Well,
let you know that go for it.
I was going to say it might have been the last thing the guys in Singapore did before they got shut down.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that does
While they
make
were
a lot of sense, actually.
While they were oogling the Baby Yoda statue out there, that was a great virtue signal. Jonas, you got Snow White, and do you have Pocahontas? Those are the.
Yeah, well, we're jumping ahead. You're not wrong. I just want to point out, first of all, they obviously David
Great googly moogly
could not come back for this one, so they got a new voice. Flounder, whew. There's one that's fantastic. I'm not going to share it. This one, Mad Hatter, they kind of get him right. And you just guess who does the voice.
The same guy who does the Candy. What's his name? King Candy.
Alan Tudyk.
King Candy.
Alan Tudyk, yeah.
Yes. It's
okay.
It's
I'll give you
obviously
points for
salmon.
Alan Tudyk.
Yeah. Yeah,
He does sound a lot like him.
Well, King Candy is basically an impression of this guy, Edwin.
I should have put him and King Candy on the screen.
Should I know
that
who
would have
King
been funny.
Candy is?
He's from Wreck-It Ralph. He's
okay.
He's the villain.
Not really familiar with the movie.
Yeah.
Well, it's okay. It kept you from watching the sequel, which was plenty worse than the first.
I mean, they're good attempts. Obviously, Headless Horseman's not going to look right because he's in a.
Those are fine. I mean, listen. Looking at these, you're going to tell very quickly which ones came from movies. Oh, good Lord. And which ones were drawn by people who just, they've never drawn in their lives. It's like these people don't belong in a Hallmark gift card artistry department. Good God.
Pacha from Emperor's New Groove looks like he wants to die.
Lizard eyes. He looks like one of his eyes is about to move to find a fly.
Oh, and here we have Handsome Squidward wants us to paint with all the colors.
This is the bad one. This is bad.
And in motion, it does not look better. What I would say here is this is about a Walt Disney TV animation level of production.
Or worse.
Yes.
Or worse.
Or worse.
If anybody remembers the old Tarzan show that was on the Disney Channel for a period of time.
Even that looked better.
Yeah, I, I think you're right, actually, VR. But
Well, the thing, I think the Tarzan showed because they took from the original animation of the film and they tried to make it look as close as possible with the obviously more restrained budget of a television show.
Sure.
This you're doing for your 100th anniversary. This should look exactly like the Pocahontas that we remember from 30 years ago.
Okay.
whatever
Oh
it
God,
was. Yeah.
what is poor Ariel?
These
Ariel's the
eyes right
worst.
here. And
Goodness
Ariel looks like
gracious.
Ricky Bobby's girlfriend with red hair.
Oh God.
now,
Joker vibes.
here's one that actually looks good, and you can guess why this one actually looks good.
Yeah. Yeah,
Anyone know why this one actually looks on model?
Because it's directly taken from a property that it already existed upon.
Because it's actually animated by Eric Goldberg, who
Right.
Oh.
They brought him
Made a
back
genie.
for this, if I'm not mistaken. Which is about the only guy that they have a rapport with to bring him back in this instance.
Yeah. But here's the one that I have the most commentary on. Here is the model that that the entire company is founded on this character of Snow White. They risked everything to make that film, and she's standing next to their next Disney princess, which I'm hearing she's not a princess. She's just Asha or whatever her name is. And her song just came out, and it's like Frozen, but if the lyrics to Frozen are obvious, the lyrics
And
to
generic.
Wish are even more obvious.
Oshkosh Bagasha.
It doesn't
Now,
seem like
I
you
will
can
say
even
this
use
is
the same
not
level
the
of
worst
animation
still.
on the new character.
Say that again.
This is not the worst still. Pull up. I mean, there are worse freeze frames of Snow White where her eyes are like going out into her hair. It's
To be
just, I mean,
fair-
it looks terrible.
To be fair, VR, at least they got the skin tone right on Snow White. We can't put anything past the.
Well, they
the
didn't make
modern
her
Walt
look
Disney
like
Company.
Rachel Ziegler, I guess, is where we're going with this.
Right,
Trying to make her, huh?
She looks
No,
like
but
the toys that are coming out.
On the
She
Wish character, it's like they couldn't even use the same level. I get what they're going for here. They're trying to show these characters in their original animated state.
Right.
But if you're going to show this is the new big thing coming out, in November or whatever with Wish, that character does not seem to have anywhere near the level of definition that she does in the movie from a graphical standpoint. And it's like, I don't know what you're going. Again, this should be not only celebrating the 100 years of Disney, but they should be using this to support the marketing for this new big movie they have coming out, right? This should be the big push towards that. It just seems odd that, like, the detail in the hair, because that's one of the things that struck me in the trailers for Wish, was it threw me off because, like, the face looked like what you would expect from an animated set of features from
Right.
Disney animation, but the hair was so over-defined compared to the rest of the face. Like, there's the skin is very smooth, it's very animated, and the hair looks like incredibly realistic. It kind of threw me visually for a loop. I'm just wondering what they didn't go for that here. That actually kind of looks better and more well blended as a total animated character than what I've seen in some of the trailers.
Well, she probably looks better because when you remove her from this weird watercolor style they're doing with their backgrounds in the movie, she's going to look better because CGI with watercolor backgrounds is just bizarre. I get what I know what they're trying, but it doesn't work.
It tells you a prioritization level there for the animators working on Wish, which is why everybody's kind of like, what other realm of the Walt Disney Company is putting enhanced emphasis on the hair and different aspects and qualities that people, might overlook otherwise. And it's like, oh, wait a minute, isn't that with the Splash Mountain redo into Tiana's Bayou Adventure and how they're putting enhanced emphasis on Tiana's hair throughout that attraction? It's just kind of it's like you said, VR, it's a little bit distracting.
Right. There's an entire episode of Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur that talks about hair being political, which is like, okay, because everything has to be political these days. So
it also was not lost upon me that this short, which is 12 minutes long, and that's including the credits, after Mickey and Minnie, who's the next character who jumps out and then summons all of the other Disney characters?
Tinkerbell.
It's Tiana. No, Tiana. Well, I mean, they say, hey, Tink, but it's really Tiana who jumps out and starts calling for all of the other characters to come out and get ready for the photo. And I was taken aback because I thought, they really are throwing everything they have at saving Splash Mountain. Well, I mean, after they destroyed Splash Mountain, they really are doing everything they can to get people excited about Tiana's Bayou Adventure, and it is not working. And it's now awkward because, when you think of the plethora of characters from Disney's roster, I love Tiana. Princess and the Frog is a cool movie. I love me some Ray and Evangeline, but Tiana's not the first character you would think of to jump out and be like, all right, everybody, let's go. It's kind of odd.
Well, but that's kind of the problem with what a lot of Disney has done. Think about it, Pro. That's what they've been doing now for years. There's no real introduction or reintroduction to these, and I don't mean this in a derogatory tone to Princess and the Frog. Again, I've said this before, it's one of my favorite Disney animated films. Again, I'm jaded from New Orleans, but I love Tiana and I love that movie. I think it has some of the best music of any Disney film, but they don't do anything to bring these characters in. They just throw them at you. It's like Rey in Star Wars, or like now the MCU, that kind of stuff, right? It's just, here's the new folks. It's like, well, wait, you got to get the Snow Whites, and you've got to get the Ariels, and you've got to get the Bells, the huge mega sellers for merch and movies for the last 30 years for Disney, the resurgence of the golden era with Shore and Menken. Let those characters do the introductions and then reintroduce people to like Tiana and things like this. But they want to go like full out on, well, these are the characters we want you to pay attention to now, without giving people a good reason to get them engaged in them first. And this is why Disney, I think, kind of keeps failing box office wise, Disney Plus show wise, and all this. It's like, let's just throw a bunch of new stuff against the wall, see what sticks. And none of it really is right now.
You make a great point here. I was just watching Monday Night Football tonight, actually, where during the halftime show.
What is Lambert doing? I'm sorry, Vash. What is? I think Lambert is the only one who is looking at this the same way we all are. Lambert is like, yeah, that ain't right.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, why am I here?
Lambert's like, nice try, guys.
That's good. That's a great point.
Either that or she thinks they're hot. I don't know.
Even my daughter was like, "What's wrong with Robin Hood?" And
oh Lord!
Well, you can tell they're from the original too. They've been ripped. The cells are directly from it. Go to Snow White though on that one. Focus in on Snow White because she looks like. God, good Lord!
She looks like she wants Peter to cut out with his antics.
You're right. It's Lois. It's Lois.
It's just it's squashed and stretched in this very awkward way. VR talked about the animation style before, and when they would incorporate some of these characters in kind of this realistic setting or amongst other 3D characters, they would usually try to kind of flesh them out in a way that kind of made them a little bit more, I don't know, defined. Think Roger Rabbit, for instance, right? There would be some highlighting on them so you can incorporate these characters
Look
in
at
the
her
world.
hand.
I noticed that Roger wasn't in this. Yeah.
What is going on with her thumb? Look,
issues.
guys, look at this had to be this. They can say this wasn't made by AI, but that thumb
does
is
look
connected like
really
down at her below her wrist bone.
It's like it's dislocated. Peter, I don't want the apple. Stop it.
Had the artist ever looked at a hand before?
Well, this is the thing, right? This kind of goes off the point being made here. You have an animation studio-ish, kind of, a little bit, that has been out of the 2D game for quite some time and hasn't really worked with these characters in quite a while. And so it's like you have an expedited timeline, which you have to actually put this out. And here's what we're seeing. We're seeing the fruits of that.
Thank you once again for joining us here on That Park Place. If you want to follow myself, Jonas J. Campbell, That Park Place News Network, or Vash Sky, you can do that at the Twitter handles listed above, or you can look in the description down below for any of our contributors that were on the panel. That would be Mr. Valiant Renegade and WDW Pro. Of course, if you've got any commentary on this very spicy subject, we have noticed that people have many varying reactions to this particular short, going from giving people the chills to making people cringe. We acknowledge that these reactions run the gamut. So like this video if you enjoyed the discussion, share it out on social media if you know someone who's into this kind of conversation, or subscribe to That Park Place for all the news that should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Place News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com for all the news that should be fun. Don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.